Water.
Earth.
Fire.
It has been almost 50 years since the Fire Nation attacked and threw the world out of balance. The Avatar has disappeared, and many have lost hope of peace. But a few brave people have come together, bridging the gap between nations. And fighting secretly in the shadow to restore harmony and balance. This is the Saga of the White Lotus. Can never time that right, but welcome to the Avatar Legends, our version of the Magpie Games Avatar Legends, which is not officially out yet, but it has been backed by Kickstarter, and the core rulebook, I believe, is coming out very, very soon, according to the latest update. So we are playing based off of the quick start guide that they have so graciously allowed us to have, which I believe anybody that backed can get a copy of that. So if you haven't gotten your copy, check it out. It's really fun to play so far, and it's gonna get better as they release that core rulebook. So check out Magpie Games so that you too can play Avatar Legends. Our particular story is the story of the Saga of the White Lotus, and we are on our second episode. So as we are only on our second episode, I think I would like to go through and have everybody introduce themselves again and who they're playing. And we'll start at, we'll go backwards this time. So we'll go, Lance, if you'd like to kick us off here. Have you introduced yourself and your character, and then we'll go around.
Like he said, my name is Lance. I am playing Rue, or Ruani. I am a waterbender. Water tribe.
All right. And Dragon?
Hello, I am Dragonbait, or DB, and I am playing Zola. I am a Fire Nation citizen.
Are you still? And
Well,
Kaz?
okay.
Hello. I'm Kaz, and I'll be playing as Michi of the Northern Air Temple. I was also a Fire Nation citizen.
I still am.
Keyword
I didn't say was. I didn't use
Was.
this past tense
You didn't
bullshit.
say was. I was.
Well, if you missed the first episode, you can catch it on the nerdasylum.com, as all our previous episodes will be uploaded to our website, and you can check them out, easily arranged in shows, just like it is on Netflix or Disney or Hulu or Prime or Peacock or
All of the streaming
Yeah.
services.
I was gonna try to name them all being hip and
No,
cool, but I don't know half of
absolutely do
them
not.
anymore.
Being hip and cool.
Yeah.
What was this? What was this, guys? Oh,
But yeah, you can check all the past episodes out on our website. Please visit thenerdasylum.com. We need to justify the cost of the website.
I'm hell, Joe. God damn
Sorry,
it.
I just paid that this week, and it's oof. Okay. So anyway, check it out.
Christ.
Help us, we're broke nerds.
Help.
I felt about when Podbean renewed our thing. I was like, whoa.
Did they?
It was that much.
Everything's
Yeah, no,
going
it's
up. Everything nowadays is just up and up and up, and it's crazy. But that's
Anyway.
beside the point. We get together to have fun. So
It's worth it.
Should we recap?
yes, episode 1. Oh, did you want to do the recap? Yeah, go
I
for it.
can do the recap
You
because
go
I
for it. You
rewatched
sound
and then took
excited.
all of them. So, Sola went to the prison to see Grandmama because she woke up and Grandma was not at home and had been arrested. Grandma was cryptic about why she was arrested and then handed me a pie show tile, and was all like, this might come in handy. And I was like, Grandma, what is happening? And Grandma said, not a goddamn thing. So I was being led out of the prison, and when I kind of ran into these two in the courtyard, and a prison riot kind of started. That's what I named it in my notes, as prison riot. And I was lined up with everybody else, even though I was just a guest. And they were like, "Oh, hey, everybody go back to their cells." And I'm like, "Don't have one. Could I just out?" And the answer to that was no. So we kind of prison escaped. And we then went down to the beach. We met Rue's terrifying monster.
She's not terrifying.
Zola took off while they were like, "Oh, so cute, woo woo woo."
He is a fox elf, and his name is Tapu. Please respect him.
I went to my house where they were tearing it apart, and they tried to grab me, and I slithered away, I guess is how you would, just like slinked, got away, found my fire ferret, and we ran away. While that was happening, Rue and Michi went over to the other side of town, I guess. I don't think we lived on the same side. Anyway, Rue was like, "Oh, I'm packing my shit." Michi went to see their father. Their father definitely dead. There's no way in hell he survived that. We all went towards the ferry. Michi screamed my name in the middle of public, and instead of getting on the ferry, I got onto the monster and held tight to Rue, and we swam away.
That was a very good recap. Although a bit biased towards one character.
Sorry. It's all about me, obviously. I talked about Rue and Michi.
And the monster? Tapu is not a monster.
Well,
Tapu is the sweetest NPC in this entire game.
You haven't even got to talk to my
carrying your big head.
Rude. Anyway, so there you go.
We love each other.
That was a very good recap. If you'd like to see more of that in detail, you can watch episode 1. So we're gonna pick up as they are approaching. We left off where they were approaching the Crescent Isle, and they could see the lights of the large temple that sits atop this crescent-shaped island. Hence the name Isle. It's very much creative in the way of the Fire Nation to name their capital city, and their Crescent Islands island. So as you're approaching on the massive Tapu, you can see the lights of this 90-foot tower. It's very oriental design, Western inspired temple. It has the squared building complex with each layer kind of having those ornate roof-like structures. And you can see lights in almost every layer except for the very tip-top layer. Surprisingly dark. And the reason you know that, because it is dark as you're approaching, is because there's also a big bright fire burning on top of this thing like a beacon. So you can see the outside of the top of the temple. And surprisingly, the very top of the temple is not lit up, though the rest is. And you can see, because of this massive burning fire beacon on the top of the temple, it kind of casts almost this dim daylight. It's almost like a very gray day around the island. That's how bright this fire beacon is. There's moonlight cast, and you can kind of see the moonlight dancing on the very subtle waves around you. You can kind of see the white salty sea splashing up against Tapu as he's kind of swimming and doing that slithering motion. Smell the salt, but you also smell a bit of brimstone. And as you get closer to the island, make out that this is not a very habitable place, as a lot of it is made up of volcanic rock. There's no vegetation that you can. There's not a lot of flat surface. It is literally a crescent mountain jutting from the water with this obviously man-made tower sticking out of the top. Tapu is heading towards the one area on the southern tip of the crescent that looks like it's flat enough that he can probably climb up, and there's a flat enough surface for kind of like make a small refuge on this area.
So I vote that we don't go towards the beacon of Nope.
So, well, there's not really anything else to go towards.
I mean, we could. It'd probably be best if we did make camp.
Then what?
Zola, we can't hear you if you're saying anything.
It's getting late. The beacon that you're talking about is the Temple of Roku.
Okay, so it's a Fire Nation temple, and where there's Fire Nation temples, there's
So
I mean, it's like an avatar temple. So...
Yeah, and the avatar belongs to the people, not one nation. That's why he
that's
knows
true.
all of it.
But I'd rather not risk there being Fire Nation soldiers there after we just escaped.
They don't know yet. There's no way they could have gotten here before us.
They would be searching the rest of the city before they figured out that we were gone.
I'm just saying, not all Fire Nation soldiers are in Capital City.
No,
I'm saying we should just be cautious.
Okay, we can be cautious. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be cautious. I'm just saying that, like, we may be able to get some help there. I can go. I'm look more Fire Nation than you do.
We're not going to go alone.
I wouldn't be alone.
What do you mean you wouldn't be alone?
I just motioned to the fire ferret.
Head kind of pops out from behind your head.
What is that?
It's a fire ferret.
What's its name?
Soot.
Look, everything has a name, and if it doesn't have a name, I'm going to give it a name, okay?
Its name is Soot.
Soot. Oh.
Shit.
Well, let's go. Let's get to the island. Let's get Soot and Tapu some dinner.
Yes.
And then we'll just think about it.
I'm not saying that we go tonight. I say we go maybe in the morning, see if what we can find out.
It might be too late.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you guys go explore.
Point Tapu kind of slows his approach, and you feel kind of momentum shift as he's kind of coming up, and the front paws of this ginormous foxtail come out of the water and up onto the mountainy cliff, like the surface of the island. It pulls himself up onto the island.
Zola holds on tighter to Rue.
Can't breathe.
Michi's gonna jump off as soon as they're, I mean, even waiting distance.
As you jump off, how far off from the Tapu? He's
No
massive.
beast.
He's big.
He is. Don't
Big
judge
boy.
him based on his size. He's fluffy.
Look, I know people who are big, and I don't call them the beast. So, a solid jump. He's not like diving away, like a foot or two.
Okay. Then you also get soaked as Tapu just begins to kind of shake. and is now very fluffy because the fur just kind of puffs out. And the two of you are kind of like shook back and forth in the saddle.
He's used to that. He knows when the minute you get out of the water, he holds onto the edges of the saddle.
What once was a very slick back, like fur like lining is now like a baby Arctic seal, just puffball of fur.
Zola will slowly get off this giant creature and step as far away as possible.
This area is probably about a good 60 feet in like a crescent-shaped
Wow.
half diameter, and it's cliff-faced, so there's a lot of jagged rocks all around you. You're kind of in a very good spot to hide because you can see the ocean that you came from, and you can see back towards the Fire Nation. But you're also protected because you're up against this little cliff face. It's like a crescent-shaped little alcove on the island of crescent-shaped mountainous. That was a very good description.
That was
A+.
A
Thanks, Jim.
plus.
Yes.
It was great. It was the best ever.
We're just gonna hop off of Tapu and lead him up more away from the water, and then start digging through the bags for his food.
Yeah, you find most of your belongings are still very dry as they were up on the saddle, and you've traveled like this before, so you know how to pack.
We said that the island was kind of the volcanic material. Is the beach like diggable? If
It's-
someone were to dig, would you find
It's
like
very
clams and stuff?
similar, because English. It's very similar to the center of the courtyard, where that fine, like black sand, the volcanic rock that's that pumice rock that's been kind of ground down into a fine powder. That's the kind of beach that you're in. Because you're so close to the water, it's very compact and hard in the front part of it, but then as you go up it and it dries out, the softer it gets, and as you get closer to the cliff face, you do kind of sink in probably a good 2 or 3 inches into this because it's so fine and porous.
Michi's gonna get down and like look really intently and then start digging.
What are you doing?
You can scare him away. He's looking for clams to give to Pabu. Not Pabu. No, to give to Soot.
How dare you?
You can tell we're fans. That's all. That's all. That
Identity
means.
crisis. I'm so sorry.
Soot.
It doesn't take you long. You dig maybe an inch or two into and it starts to get where you're in the water level, where you can start to feel that it's getting that harder, compact, clay-like sand, and you kind of dig 1 or 2 digs into there, and you feel there's this hard surface that you feel, and as you kind of pull it up, there's this furry outside that's coated in this black sand, and the fur is kind of like, it's almost like a moss carpeting on top of the shell.
I'm gonna pry it open if I can.
Gonna make you roll for it.
No, there's not really a role for that. Assess your situation, push your luck, plead with NPC, intimidate the clam.
That sounds about right.
Rely on your skills and training would be the only thing, but I don't think this is anything that you would really need to rely on your skills and training for. This is just basically prying open a thing. But it is, you find it difficult. There's a lot of muscle to this muscle, and it's very difficult to pry open, and it takes you a minute to kind of get enough leverage on it but once you get it going, it just kind of gives, and you hear this pop as the left and the right part of the shells kind of separate, and instead of this like muscle inside, there is this little like peanut on the inside. It's like a hard shell on the inside, that kind of like pops up and kind of gets up in like eye level with you.
I'm gonna eye level. It has eyes.
No, it just kind of like
Oh.
you were prying it. You were prying it, and it pops up, and it's like eye level with you. But it's just this little like it's just like it almost looks like it came off of a tree rather than inside a clam.
Okay.
The
I'm gonna take the whole thing with the
nervousness.
shells and offer it up to Soot.
Soot kind of grabs and investigates and cracks down on it, and it immediately like you hear the sound of like teeth on bone or teeth on stone. It's a very hard, and he shakes and throws it down, and you see it kind of rolls around on the sand, kind of rolls around in a circle, and then just kind of like buries itself down in the ground.
Rue took a moment from unpacking to watch this entire scene and looks just like absolutely horrified.
Do I know what that is?
You would be familiar with these. They're not very common on the capital city island or anything. They're more in the volcanic areas as fire clams, and they're delicate once you get past. They have the shell on the outside, and then they have this like coating on the outside that's very hard. Once you get in the inside of that, it's very meaty, and it is a delicacy, but they have to import them into capital city, and that's why they're kind of an expensive delicacy.
I laugh a little bit watching Michi do this.
What?
And you still have the other clams that you dug up. You dug up about maybe 3 or 4 of them.
Would I know how to open them so that they could be eaten?
You know, on Capital City, there is a special tool. It's like a walnut cracker that you have to use to kind of get into them.
Yeah.
Because they're very hard.
We don't have the right tool to actually eat those.
Oh.
But
Okay. Rudy,
for
need any
trying.
help? He doesn't even like take the moment to think. Almost, he just moves on to the next task. Like, okay, I'm just gonna busy myself with this thing.
Rue is currently unstrapping the giant saddle off of Tapu, and has his arms in this awkward position trying to get off. He's like, "No, it's fine. Just playing with you."
I'll help. I'll take the other side.
I'm going to allow you to assist. I want you to do a rely on your skills. Even though this is something you've done a while, you're not used to having help on this, so it's kind of making it a little different for you. So
I have a -1 to this. Oh,
that's a 7.
Also 7.
okay. Combined, that's going to be a 10 plus. So the two of you kind of have this awkward moment where you're like, we're not sure how to work together. But then it just kind of clicks, and Rue just kind of like lets go of the one end and lets Michi help, and then you get, you kind of coordinate to kind of take the saddle off. And it comes off.
Brief.
Yeah.
Brief moment of trying to move a couch.
Pivot.
Pivot.
It's heavy.
Yeah. Thanks for your help.
Sure.
So do you think
How fast
it's
can
a
climb these cliffs? What?
what?
You think? What are we thinking about?
What about climbing the cliffs? Which
I'm just wondering how fast we could go up the cliffs, like a race.
you want to race up the cliffs?
I mean, we don't have, not right now.
Maybe.
It's dark. It's really dark. If you're scared, I mean, I get it.
He's gonna drop his bags and start towards the cliff face.
Michi just gives Zola like a thumbs up and runs after him.
Okay, so the two of you run towards the cliff face to start this climbing race. Zola, what are you doing?
I'm gonna look over this scroll that I have.
Oh, yes. So you take the pendant and you kind of twist it off and pull that scroll out, and you see there are 4 techniques. They're drawn out in like this pattern that kind of wave through, and it kind of shows you a new technique that you have not seen before, or a fire technique.
Can
You
I
see that there's
try?
one of each.
Can I try it?
You can certainly do that. I'm going to have you roll the same thing, rely on your skills, because this isn't something that you know, but you are a bender, so those are your skills, and we're going to try to rely on your learned skills to learn a new skill. So that's how I'm doing that. I don't know if that's how Magpie is going to do bending in the full book, because like I said, we're doing the quick start guide, but that's how we're doing it until we know better.
Remind me what rely on my skill.
That is a focus roll.
Okay. That's not a great.
You need to make up your mind if you're going to be here or you're not going to be here, but you can go.
I
Can't put that on a cat.
Yeah, it thinks
Impossible.
that cat thinks that it can do whatever the hell it wants. Okay, so focus. Ooh. Well, I got a 13.
That is a good.
I rolled double sixes, so
Wow.
yeah.
I'm not sure if there's a ruling on crits or not on
Yet.
yet.
May come
So
later.
Amazing.
we are going to make a critical success equivalent though for that, because I like to celebrate when you roll well.
Yeah.
So there are 6 total like stances that it kind of displays, and 3 of them are very familiar to you. You've been taught these stances, but 3 of them are different. They're a bit unique. They seem more like they're kind of mixing other techniques that you haven't learned before. But you recognize that immediately. You don't recognize the stances, but you recognize that they're not typical firebender stances. They seem to be a bit more on the defensive side than the aggressive side. And there's a pattern that you see to it. It's aggressive stance, defensive stance, and then aggressive stance, defensive stance, aggressive stance. So you're just kind of like figuring this out, and you kind of do the moves, and this flame erupts from your palm, both your palms, kind of connects together, creates this long arc-like whip that then radiates outward. Which way are you facing?
Towards the ocean.
As you're facing towards the ocean, the arc kind of expands and whips out and kind of disconnects from your palms and creates this crescent-shaped wall of flame that's probably about 2.5, 3 foot in width, and then just kind of begins to spread outwards and creates this larger and larger crescent as it dances across the waves. You can hear the sizzle as the wave kind of crashes into this wall of fire that you've created. This crescent wall just whips out. It travels for about 15 feet before it just kind of like dissipates and crackles out.
Did we see this happen?
You
I'm
would definitely
sure.
see the light from it if you're not even like if you're facing the cliff and you guys are focused on the cliff. You would definitely see the light from behind compete with the brightness from, it would definitely show a light from behind you. And you would probably even feel a little bit of the heat from it. As it's traveling away from you, that heat would dissipate quickly, but you would feel a heat, see the light, and then probably hear that whoosh of that fire. So
Are we
depending
under
on how
attack?
quickly you turn, you could see the last part of that.
How far up the cliff face do you think we are at this moment?
How far do you think you had started climbing?
I wasn't thinking we'd started yet, did we?
Yeah, I had still had you at the base because I was gonna have you roll
Okay.
to get up the cliff.
Yeah, Rue will definitely turn around, catch the last little bit of it, and just be like, "Everything okay?"
Yes.
Was that you?
I don't know.
The hell was that?
Thing?
You're real talkative, aren't you?
Oh, yes, always. Why are you guys climbing the cliff?
Do you want to see how fast we can get up?
He said I
But-
was scared.
But why? Like,
But
aren't
okay,
we...
that was you though, right? That wasn't like.
But why are you climbing? I thought we were camping here and then
Look,
tomorrow?
a challenge has been issued.
Can't you challenge tomorrow?
Look, I'm just gonna beat him real fast, and then it'll be fine.
He's gonna lose real fast, and then it'll be fine.
Oh, okay. Well, I think you guys should try these things on this scroll.
We're gonna race up the cliff face first, and then
No, Rue, I think you try it. Like, I'll just.
no. I mean, unless you're
as-
scared.
As they
Michi.
start doing their stupid boy challenge, is there anywhere for me to find like any wood or anything to try and like build a fire?
There is one like dead bush. It's like a tumbleweed style bush. Like there were leaves on it at one point in time, but it's long since dried out and died.
Okay.
In the corner, kind of on the southern part of this crescent that you're in. There's a little, I don't want to say little, it's probably about up to your waist size kind of bush, and you could break all the sticks and twigs and have a pretty good sized kindling pile.
I'm gonna do that while they do their stupid, probably
Okay.
fall
So yeah,
off
you're
a
getting the
cliff thing.
campfire ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
If he's doing that, like Michi kind of looks back while he's spider climbing up the cliff. Like, should we really be doing more of the fire thing with the smoke and the? I mean, we are on the run. It can't be that cold here. Is it? Is it cold here? Like,
Oh no, it's probably a steady 80 degrees, but it's a cool 80 degrees because you're right on the beach, so you've got that ocean breeze coming right
a
off
cool
of there.
80 degrees. Yeah.
Doesn't hurt to have at least kindling for later.
Okay.
Also, you should pay attention or you're gonna fall off that fucking cliff.
I think I know what I'm doing.
That is the last.
As you
words
say
my-
that, I would
There
like you
is.
both to roll a rely on your skills. These will be separate rolls.
No. More relying on the skills.
That is a focus roll.
Yeah. Okay, so you know how we talked about the like rewarding people for rolling well?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't go the opposite way, right? Like, if I theoretically were to get 2 natural ones and then I have a -1 modifier,
Oof.
Zola save me. Please.
I got a 12.
Okay, so this is how this works. Michi, you are very distracted by having an ongoing conversation with Zola as you're climbing. But, Rue, you are very focused and you scale up this cliff face. You find all the right footing holders and handholds, and you just zigzag your way right up to the top of the cliff. And as you reach the top and pull yourself up and kind of look over, you look over just in time to see Michi lose their footing and start kind of going, ah, and falling backwards. But you only fall about 5 feet because you didn't really get that far. You were so focused on this conversation that you got maybe 3 handholds up and you started talking and just got distracted and then fell. And
He screams like very high pitched and very bloody murder. And it's very short lived as he just hits the sand. Ugh.
In my
Rue's
head,
just
I'm picturing.
Fine.
I know that I said there was no vegetation, but I imagined this like layer of vegetation, and Michi just disappears behind the vegetation, and then pulls a Bruno moment where he just stands up. Oh, but yeah, that's
You're
what
lucky this
happens.
time.
lucky. You didn't even make it up like 5 feet, Michi.
Is there an easier way to get up, like walking like a path kind of
Uh,
ish, or
Not from
Probably.
where you're currently at, but Rue, as you're standing on top of here, you do see that there is on the inside of the crescent, which is the opposite side of the island that you guys are at. There is like it's not so much a port as it is like a single dock for ferries that come in and out. And from that dock, there is a single staircase that leads directly straight up the center to where the temple is at. And there is a natural path that's kind of been altered a little bit to make it a little bit safer. It's a very natural path along the ridge, but it's been added, like a stone has been kind of chiseled down to make like a little step here, and then like a couple 100 feet later there's another like little chiseled area to make like another
couple hundred
stone
feet.
face, and it kind of makes this very natural but obviously improved path from where you're at, about 100 feet from where you're at, to this like natural path up to the temple. So if you
Okay.
could get from where you're at, travel 100 feet through this semi-hazard. It's not as cliff-like as where you just climbed up. It's very kind of up and down. But you could climb up that and get to this ridge that then would very easily take you towards the top of the tower.
Okay. Don't want to do that, but good to know. He'll start climbing back down.
Yeah.
Now that he's won the race.
As you kind of getting yourself over the edge and like about to go, like lower yourself down to where you're hanging onto the cliff face, kind of look back up, and you do see in the distance, coming down that ridgeline towards you, a shadow-shaped figure. Looks like they are wearing a robe. You can see the long, spiky shoulder pads and the very almost dunce cap-like hat of what you will assume is a firekeeper.
He is going to scale down the cliff face as fast as he can. All the while going, don't start a fire! Don't start a fire!
So yeah, it doesn't take you that long. It's not a very long, maybe 30 feet up. Cool.
Oh no.
Not to panic anyone, but there is someone coming towards us.
Like a bad person? He like steps behind Rue.
Like, it's shadowy figure.
Yeah, it's
Kinda.
dark out.
Yeah,
Everything
it's
is a
night.
shadow.
Okay, are you really going to give me a lecture on nighttime right now, Zola?
A little bit. Can I see? Do I see the person?
It's hard to make out down because of the angle from where you guys are at. You can't really see the ridgeline. You can see the temple, but you can't see the ridgeline because the temple kind of protrudes up above where you can see the mountain's horizon. But you can make out at this point like the sounds of rocks kind of clattering. It does sound like someone's coming along a path.
So I'll lower my voice. We just set up camp closer to the ridge and they will not notice us. Cannot hear you, Michi.
Whispering a little too soft.
Still can't hear you.
Why?
There you are.
Do you think they know we're here?
I don't know, but it's better to be safe than sorry, right?
We can always just go ask them what they want.
Or we just do what I said.
It's a temple for Avatar Roku. I mean, there isn't really anybody else here besides like the priests. And they're nice. Priests are
Are they?
nice. Usually.
Okay. Well, if
How
they
many
come
priests do you
here,
know?
maybe we talk to them. But for now, let's avoid people.
Yeah, I don't know if you were like remember we're kind of wanted, Michi.
They don't know that we're wanted yet.
We don't know that. They got those posters up around Capital City like that.
What posters?
Wanted posters.
That's what all those papers were.
At this point, there is a very dim, glimmering light that you can see kind of glistening off towards the top of that mountain area, and it is close to where Rue saw that path about 100 feet away from that 30-foot area that you were at, and it is starting to get a little brighter, and you can
Ruth?
hear the rocks kind of clattering, almost like they are coming off the path towards where you were just at.
I start pushing the boys against the cliff.
Yeah, Rue grabs Tapu.
Tapu doesn't really resist, but he's a big fox elf, so there's a lot of weight there, so you kind of have to pull before he realizes he's being directed. Then he kind of goes up against the cliff and then lays down and has that little leg thing that they kind of like pop back almost unnaturally. Goat legs. Boom.
Loafing.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. You guys are my favorite.
The light begins to get brighter and brighter as you guys kind of move up towards the ridge. And then it stops, and you can kind of tell that there is somebody up where you were standing, Rue, kind of looking out in that direction. It's very quiet. You don't hear anything for a while, but the light is still there. Very quiet. The only sound that you can hear, the waves lapping up on the beach. There's no breeze. There's no... It's the waves. And then there's this tap, 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 tap. And then this crack, crack, crack. And then this pop sound. And then a little squee from down below where your feet are at. And you can see that Soot has found one of those clam things, popped it open, grabbed one of the things, and started smacking it against the rock, and is now munching on one of them.
I slowly scoop up Soot.
Soot freezes, realizing that, just kind of gives you one of those anime eyes. Like, huh? The light kind of gets a little brighter, and you can see the silhouette, the same silhouette with the sharp shoulder pads and the long hat, kind of approach the edge of the cliff and look out, and you can see with the light standing there, it is a bright red suit, like robe with yellow trim. You can immediately recognize this Zola as a firekeeper. This is one of the priests for the Temple of Roku. Doesn't seem to notice anything immediately below him as he is looking kind of out along the edge line, the beach line. He's got this lantern on a stick, and he kind of holds it out, and it does illuminate down where you're at. But his gaze seems to be more out along the beach line. Kind of gazes for a little bit and then pulls it back. And you see him slowly turn around. Freezes. And then continues.
God damn.
The image of like the three of them just pressed up against the cliff face, like Krunk from Emperor's New Groove.
And Tapu with his legs out. Okay. Really scary.
You're whispering so loud, so soft we can't. Whispering so loud.
It's fine.
Keep saying that, but I don't think you know what that means.
It's
Michi,
fine.
didn't you just want to go ask him?
Yeah, but now you guys made it really scary.
We didn't make anything really scary.
Well, then we could just go out and say hi then. He goes to make like a dramatic step forward, like he's gonna.
I let him.
Rue reaches for him.
I take Rue's hand. I'm just like,
Weren't you gonna stop me?
if you want to make a bad choice, that's you.
Yeah, but he's with us. His bad choices affect us.
I mean, distraction and we run away.
Where are you guys gonna run to? It's an island.
We have the swimming one.
He can swim that fast.
Tapu kind of lets out that growl.
Okay, buddy. I didn't mean it. You can swim fast.
I just don't want him to risk his cute face to a fireball or something.
I can take care of fireballs.
Well, then why are we hiding? You could just fight him. You're so great.
I don't want to fight anybody.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we could just talk to him.
Or we just go to sleep. Figure out what we need to do for tomorrow. Where are we going? Are we sticking together?
Well, on one hand, we're all wanted. So if we split up, it might be a little harder for them to catch us. On the other hand, it is safer in a group.
Yeah. Well, I'm staying with Rue for at least a little bit since, I mean, Tapu can swim.
Can you not?
I mean, I can swim. I'm not going to swim across the ocean.
I'm not.
Zola.
Okay, well, what about you, Zola?
I'm looking for somebody.
Who are you looking for?
My father.
That's something we have in common.
Where's your dad at?
He was back in the Fire Nation, but I need to figure out a way to check on him so that I know that he's okay. I mean, I'm sure he is. He's been able to take care of himself and me for a long, long, long time. But I just, peace of mind. Where's your dad at?
In the north. At least that's what I was told.
How far north?
Pretty sure as far north as you can go.
Well, I can't relate to you guys at all because I know where my dad is, and I'd rather he stay there.
And where is your papa?
The north.
Oh,
You
interesting.
We could go to the north and find your dads.
Okay, yeah, we could go to the north and talk to our dads.
No.
Why?
Are
you on bad terms with your father? Do you need to go to therapy with him?
God, no.
He is on bad terms.
No, can we just... I'm making camp.
So yeah, you separate from the group and start kind of building out your bedroll in the little tent that you've got with you because you're used to traveling on the road, so you're used to sleeping out at night, and you have gotten used to these warmer evenings down here in the south, as it were.
Very different.
Yeah.
Sure, those first few weeks were just miserable.
was a bit sweltering compared to where you're used to being.
A little bit.
But you've been down here for a bit, so you're used to it now. Kind of got accustomed to a routine of how you can sleep. And you have the tent, but you don't really use it unless it's raining because it's so hot inside. You just kind of like sleep out in the open where the nice cool breeze can get. Like you set up this nice little tent and then you put your bedroll outside of it.
Yeah, it's he sets up the tent. It's a really nice little tent. And he walks and gets his bedroll, walks away from the tent, and just like 10 feet away, lays out his bedroll and just flops down, pulls Tapu over.
Tapu kind of adjusts a little bit and kind of puts the shoulder chest part around so that you can use Tapu's shoulder chest leg part as a pillow, and it's fluffy. It's still a little damp, but it's fluffy.
Fine.
It's nice.
It's like the cool side of the pillow.
Yeah. Tapu plops his big fox face down. The elk antlers kind of flop down.
So, somebody can use the tent if you want.
So it hops down and disappears into the tent.
Okay, the tent's been claimed. Sorry, guys.
There might be enough room for you too, Zola. You should go.
It's gonna be kind of hot in there, so I will sleep out here, I guess. I will take off the like shawl that I wear and like bundle it up and make it into like a pillow.
Yeah. And the section that you're in, that sand, is actually quite nice. It's almost like a memory foam consistency when you lay it. Kind of gives a little bit in certain areas, but then in other areas it kind of, it's very nice and comfortable where you're at, if not very sandy.
Michi's gonna follow suit, and I think he's gonna go and collect a little bit of the shrubbery that broke his fall, and kind of make a little pillow and wrap it up with like a sash.
Head. So thorny.
It's not thorny.
So, what is our plan? We never really we talked about daddy issues, and then
I mean, I think we go to the Earth Kingdom because we'll be able to find refuge there for now. It's better than staying in the Fire Nation as wanted
Did
people.
Zola, did Nana want you to do anything with that thing she gave you? You know, the pie show tile?
Nana!
I hope that's okay. She said that I could call her Nana too.
No, it's fine. She
I don't
didn't
know her real name.
she didn't exactly say much of anything. She was very cryptic. Not used to that from my grandmother. She just said it would come in handy, which is where the scroll came from that I showed you when we were on the water.
can I see the tile?
I will hand him the tile, but I am keeping on to the scroll.
Okay, so you open the tile, take the scroll out, and then close it back up and go to hand it to him.
Mhm.
Rue, as you grab the tile, you see it's a jade tile. It is a little bit more extravagant than the tiles you're used to seeing. It's definitely handcrafted, ornate, high-end, expensive tile. And for some reason, on the back of it, there's a square deliberately carved into it. It's a perfect square. It's not like oblong. It's not like something that was like just done out of it. Definitely took some time, but it's not a part of the pie show tile because you can see that the stain used to make the wood look darker is carved out, so that it's a definitely clear square carved into the back. I would like you all, I don't know if I'm using this right, but I would like you all to roll and assess your situation roll, which is based on creativity.
Oh, so good.
That is a 9.
13.
She got an 11. Ooh, look at us.
I don't think I quite will alter that. So I guess this doesn't really work like D&D. I guess I'm just supposed to tell you this, but we already rolled. So who rolled a 9 or above?
We all did.
All three of you. Okay. It didn't really hit you before. It hits you suddenly, especially in the first person to get this is going to be Michi, because Michi, you've been there before. This is circle on the outside, square in the center. This is the symbol of Omashu.
Guys,
I'm not quite sure if that's like what it's intended to be, but it definitely looks like the symbol of Omashu.
I think all the proportions are right and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason for this to have like a hole carved into it. This is a really old set. Like this is like a relic. I mean, I think this like doesn't this look like the Omashu sigil to you guys? Like just a little bit.
Rue's gonna like hold it out at a further distance just to kind of get like a further away look, like a whole picture. And just be like, oh, I should have paid attention in class more. Well, it's definitely carved in there. I think maybe this is what your grandma, Nana, wanted us to find.
I guess so. She was very cryptic.
Well, it is a cryptic message engraved on a
Why should
Paisho
you
tape.
go to Omashu?
I don't know.
Well,
Apparently oh, go ahead.
if it gets us out of the Fire Nation,
Yeah, let's go to Amashu. That's, I mean, kind of where we were talking about anyway. Maybe we can find the set that goes with this?
Maybe.
Maybe.
okay. Then in the morning, we will head for the mainland.
We might be able to actually buy stuff there too.
Do you guys have money?
Fire Nation money, yes.
That'll work.
I have a little bit.
If
I have
not,
some
we
stuff I could trade.
we could trade, we could get jobs.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at finding stuff, figuring it out. So.
You couldn't even make it up a cliff face, Michi.
Well, I'm tired. We have a big day tomorrow.
You guys get some sleep. I'll keep watch.
Wake me up when you get tired and I'll take the next watch.
He's gonna give her the jade tile.
I take it back, put the thing back in it, and put it away.
A little interesting, aren't you?
I roll over.
And end scene. The sun is already gone. The moon sets on our night, and it's very quiet. You all get a very, very good amount of sleep. It's a quiet night. There doesn't seem to be any other things out here to disturb you. There's not a lot of wildlife unless you dig in the sand. Which in the morning you are woken up to the sound of that clack, 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 pop, clack, 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 pop.
I slowly open my eyes and look at Soot.
Soot is having a feast. You see there's like 15 clamshells just spread out that are already open, and Soot is just going to town, cracking them open and eating them.
Soot.
So it stops and freezes and just kind of like sits up like that ferret, like the groundhog ferret look, and just kind of like pops up the tail, flipping back and forth, looks at you, and then just drops that jaw and just bleh.
So
He's
what do you have?
super
Drop
good at
it.
getting those. What if we? I mean, I don't know how much they're worth. They're probably not much. But what if we
What?
like got a bunch and
Yeah.
sold them?
I think that's a great idea, but I'm looking at this ferret who's been eating so many of them. Can we? I want to dig for some of these.
They're plentiful in the sand. If you spent a half an hour digging through, you'd find probably about 100 of them.
I
Yeah,
will.
like you could get a
do
whole
that.
bucket full of these things. They're
I
very
will do
plentiful
that,
here.
and then I will keep them away from soot.
You will attempt.
I will.
Rue will put like water in the bucket and freeze the top of it so it can't get to them.
There you go.
And he's gonna start packing up Tapu again.
Can I look towards the temple?
Yeah.
Do I see any movement?
It seems like the temple is active, but you don't see anybody really outside of the temple. It seems like most of the activity is inside. But the bottom layer of the temple is kind of, there's like supporting columns for the next layer, but it's very open. There's no like walls around on the very bottom layer. Being that you are kind of down and looking up, you can kind of see like maybe one corner of that and then like all the way up. There are like windows on every side that are kind of like popped open this morning. It looks like things are kind of taking place, but there's no obvious activity on the outside of the temple.
Okay.
So you still want to go investigate the temple?
I don't know if they'll have anything for us there.
Michi?
Yeah, I think. I mean,
So sorry. Pardon me.
we have a plan. Anything that we could find in the temple, I'm sure we could find elsewhere too. So, and if we go to Mashu, I can find a place to send some mail.
Okay. Zola, you want to climb on Tapu first?
I will climb onto the thing.
Yeah. Tapu seems very open to you, Zola. Tapu kind of bends down and gives you a little easier access. Kind of waits for you to climb on this saddle. It's a very wide saddle and long saddle. It is meant for long traveling, but it's also very aerodynamic and it's sleek. Like you notice that this thing is not this is not a hand-me-down saddle. This is like handcrafted, handmade, fine leather, comfortable. As you're kind of climbing into it, kind of take the time. You do notice that there's cushioning on the saddle. This is a nice saddle. A little worn, a little weathered, but it's definitely a nice saddle.
I strapped in? I don't know.
There's no seatbelt.
There's no seatbelts.
Looks like I'm gonna be death gripping somebody again.
Hey, Michi, you want to sit between me and Zola?
He's already gotten up behind Zola.
Dang it. Rue will throw the last of the bags in and climb into the saddle and start him towards the water.
Yeah, Tapu stands up and you're now 10 foot off the ground and heads into the water, and it's a very smooth descent into the water. You're 10 foot up off the ground, and it's almost like that beach cliff face where the water just kind of like drops off into the into the deep, and it's just a very smooth descent into the water, and then it starts that swimming pattern. And Tapu kind of waits for direction and kind of correct Tapu's direction, and going around the south part of Crescent Island, you give yourself enough clearance not to be seen by the temple, and then head towards Earth Kingdom. And it takes a while, probably a good portion, even though you've left fairly early in the morning, it does take a good portion of the day to get to a point where the sun is just on the horizon to the west behind you, and it's kind of casting this orange glow on the water, and you can barely make out the sliver of Earth Kingdom in the distance. You probably got another about 3 hours of travel time to reach the Earth Kingdom. So you'll probably reach the beach of the Earth Kingdom just as nightfall is hitting, twilight.
Okay, so I'm gonna catch us some food. Rue's gonna go fishing while they're on the way to the Earth Kingdom.
Yeah, are we gonna have any problems? Like, do I know if we just like wash up on the beach, are they gonna kick us out? Are they gonna let us into the city? No, there's procedures for
Last
things.
you left Omashu, you would recall that it's an open town for a lot of refugees coming in, seeking refuge from Fire Nation expansions colonies. They do have a very open door policy, but they are very protected once you're in the city. Like it would be hard for a Fire Nation to come in and take the city at this point. So they do have colonies kind of spreading out along the beaches of the Earth Kingdom, but they haven't kind of expanded like in the series yet. They haven't really taken over areas. So you would consider Omashu a pretty safe place, pretty easy to get into, open border policy. As long as you're not causing trouble, they're not looking to kick you out or anything.
Okay, Zola, no more trouble.
Okay.
So, Zola, you said your dad was last in the north.
Yes.
What was he doing?
I don't know.
He didn't say where he was going to be.
Yeah, not really. He doesn't really talk about like exact locations or anything like that. He was just kind of exploring.
And he's missing because he just didn't come home, or
Yeah, he was supposed to be home before yesterday.
well, maybe we can get some insight. I mean, if he was on his way home, maybe he was in the town or something.
Maybe.
Whether he was coming back or, I mean, on his way.
So, do you know why your Nana was arrested?
No, I have no idea why she was arrested at all. Apparently, something about traitors of the crown, but I don't know why or how.
Maybe that has some reason why your dad didn't come back.
Fucking shitty reason.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
if he got word.
But yeah, he just abandoned them. That's kind of heartless.
Maybe he's just in hiding. Maybe he saw you
He's making a
escape
plan.
and
Mhm.
look, we'll find your dad. We'll find Michi's dad,
We'll find your dad.
No, I'm good. I know where my dad is.
I mean, but yeah, maybe he'll be a little bit of help.
I mean, you were locked up. Did he know that you were in prison?
Yeah.
Uh,
Where did you get arrested from? Were you in the city when you got arrested?
time.
What?
Oh, the last time I got yeah, I was in the city.
When was the first time you got arrested?
It was what?
Are you like a serial killer? Like, what's happening?
Do I look like a serial killer to you?
I don't know what a serial killer
If
looks
there's
like.
something I've learned from reading the tabloids, is that you never know what a serial killer could look like. It could be anyone.
I will throw both of you off of this fox.
That sounds like what a serial killer would say.
Zola, we need to get away. I'm joking.
Sun can't carry us.
No,
we're stuck in the
I
middle of the
am
ocean
not
with
a serial
killer
I'm not a serial killer.
with daddy issues.
Excuse me, you both have daddy issues.
I'm
Daddy
just saying,
issues?
maybe you would benefit from a heart-to-heart chat with your father. If he doesn't know, he deserves to know that
You are a serial
only
killer.
son.
I'm
only
not a
son.
serial
That his
killer.
son was locked away.
No, that's not actually a good idea. And I wrote to my parents like
You don't have to be embarrassed.
6 months ago.
Oh, they haven't heard from you in 6 months?
That's fine.
Yeah, Zola hasn't heard from her dad in like 8 days, and she's freaking out.
It's been longer than 8 days.
Like 12?
9.
Oh.
So
At least 8.
after an awkward conversation about serial killers and daddy issues, the rest of that travel goes fairly uneventful, and you get to the edge of the Earth Kingdom. Again, this beach is much more tropical looking. You are in the southwestern part of the Earth Kingdom, and it has a very nice like white sand beach, palm trees, vegetation after the sand. You can see wildlife on the beach, and there's fish in the water, and it's much different. The heat is less like intense fire heat and more like that tropical mid heat in this area. And Tapu gets to the point where it's kind of hard. Tapu's transition here is a little bit more struggly because it's not so hard. It's like a sandy surface, so the hooves kind of sink into the sand, and there seems to be a little bit of trouble getting through and transitioning. And about halfway up into the water and the beach, Tapu just kind of like gives up and just kind of plops down, splashing the water out around, letting a wave kind of crash from the back over top and kind of splash into you as he just kind of like lays, kind of defeated and tired, kind of arches his neck and puts his face down in the sand and just kind of like
Good job, buddy.
Yeah, I'm gonna get off and give him scritches. Like, you
No,
did
but
so
I'm not
good.
gonna scritch him.
Come on, Zola, he carried you all this way.
I don't like big animals.
He's literally the sweetest animal you could find.
I gently cover Soot's ears. How dare you say that?
Soot is oblivious.
Look, the way your fire ferret went after those clams, it's a little terrifying.
Excuse you.
You called Tapu a beast.
I think I called Tapu a monster. There was a difference.
That's even worse. He's gonna pull
gonna-
some food from his
Yeah,
pack to
I was
give
gonna
to
dig in
Tapu.
Rue's bag and give him some treats. He doesn't deserve this slander.
Would you like me to make a fire so you can cook your fish?
I think maybe we should maybe sell it.
Okay.
We could sell the fish and the clams and maybe sleep in a bed tonight.
A bed.
Might be safer than sleeping outside.
That's true. We should do that. Gonna wander into a town?
There doesn't seem to be anything immediately around. You can see Omashu in the distance, kind of sticking up above the landscape. It's almost like this peaked mountain carved out of the top of this mountain in the distance that kind of sticks out. It's probably another half a day's journey, but it is twilight. Like, there's still a little bit of light, but the sun has dissipated past the horizon. So it's that kind of residual light. You only have maybe 20, 30, like, daylight left.
Is there any of these like settlements that would have a place for us to stay?
Can't see anything immediately around, but you smell like cooking fish.
I follow my nose then.
Mm-hmm.
Tapu is exhausted and is not moving from the spot.
Oh, buddy. Well,
Let's let him rest, and we'll continue in the morning. It's probably less suspicious if we wander into town, during the day and not in the dark.
that's true. Rue's going to very difficultly pull Tapu onto the beach more out of the water.
After letting a couple waves smack and he kind of catches his breath, he does kind of get up after you kind of goad him along, and he does find a nice spot in the brush to just kind of like plop down. And you see like tongue, like it's almost like a giraffe-like tongue that kind of sticks out and wraps around the branch and just pulls it into his
Oh,
mouth.
buddy.
Gonna give him lots of scritches.
Sorry, I took artistic liberty with that tongue. I just
That's
imagined
fine.
a very long, hard giraffe tongue in a fox elk.
That quote's going in the books. Oh.
But yeah, you all leave, kind of follow your nose north along the beach line towards the northern part of where Omashu is, but along the beach line rather than inland. And it doesn't take you but 15 minutes, about the time the natural daylight kind of dissipates. Nothing but, kind of the twilight, dusk, nighttime. You can see clearly in the sky the stars. There's no clouds tonight, so it's a very clear night, crisp air. Smell very pertinent or pungent in the air is the smell of fried fish. And there is a single, it's not a shack so much as a kind of like stick house. It's made from materials out here in the wilds, and there is a stack of smoke coming from the house, and it looks lights are on in the house, and that's where the smell is coming.
Rue's stomach is growling loudly.
Michi's going to go up and knock gently.
As you rap upon that door, there's a clutter of pots, pans, dishes, things that kind of like sound like they fall and drop, and then there's a silence, and then there's a like coming up to the door, and it kind of peeks open. I wasn't expecting guests. Who are you then?
We're travelers, and we've come a long way. You're the first person we've seen in a little bit. We were just wondering if we could use your fire and rest here. We don't have to come in. We don't have to rest inside, but we are not going to hurt you.
Oh, I will have nothing of it. Come inside. And he opens the door wide, and you see standing in front of you a tallish man. He's about 5'8", almost 6 foot tall. Brown hair that kind of wraps around, completely bald on top. Fairly large-ish ears that kind of stick out a little bit, and a very very full handlebar mustache. No other facial hair. His eyebrows are very thin, so they don't match the bushiness of the. It's just a huge, bushy handlebar mustache. And he is definitely wearing that green and brown earthy tones. It looks like it's not produced. He's not city folk. He made his own clothing out of like hide and things found out in nature. Come in, come in, come in.
You're very kind. He gestures to have Rue and Zola follow. These are my friends. This is Rue and Zola, and I'm Michi, and you are...
I'm Cauldron.
Aldrin.
Yes.
It's great to meet you, and I love what's happening right here. It's very handsome.
Years it took me. Years, and he curls it.
Oh, the love and effort, it shows.
He kind of struggles with one side, and he dips his hands in this pot that's next to the stove that you can tell is boiling some kind of fish stew. This is where the smell was coming from. Kind of puts the grease on there and spins it. Ah, yes, much better. Sit, sit, sit. You must have stories to tell. Travelers, yes. I do love me some visitors. And he kind of plops down and crosses his legs, and you can see that this banana leaf hide tunic that he's wearing is very short and like not fitted well. Got long scraggly legs. He looks like he's been living off of the land. He's very dirty, very unkempt.
I love him.
Rue will be the first to sit down.
Michi also sits.
So you must tell me your stories, please. I don't get many travelers nowadays.
Oh, what? Like just stories of our travels?
Any stories that you wish to share? Where do you come from? Where do you go?
Well, where'd you come from? Well, I'm from the Northern Water Tribe.
Ah, yes, Water Tribe. I could tell you were Water Tribe. Northern, you say?
Yes.
It's been a very long time since I've seen the likes of your kind here.
We don't like to get out much.
Yes, yes. Behind your walls. Behind your walls are safe.
Mm-hmm. And boring. But that's not the,
Looking for adventure, you are. Talk like Yoda I do all of a sudden. I don't know why.
That fish stew is doing something. I don't know if I want to eat it now.
Fermented fish stew, apparently.
Yeah. I was captured by the Fire Nation and brought to a capital city where I escaped and have been playing hero for a year and a half.
Oh, do tell. Details, details.
There's not a whole lot. He's gonna kind of like side eye the other two.
Playing hero? Do you not see yourself as a real hero? What do you mean playing hero? Ow.
Sola, she's from the Fire Nation.
he immediately just switches, like his attention span is now he's looking at Zola. Your name is Zola? That's a beautiful name, and you're obviously not Water Nation.
No, I'm from Capital City.
Oh my, such intrigue. He kind of leans in. What
She
brings
leans
you here?
back. Vacation.
Kind of looks around. Says, fair enough.
Yeah.
It's beautiful here, yes.
Yes, definitely.
Apparently that voice is hard to do for me.
Yes, Joe brings out his vodka.
It's water, thank you very
Get the
much.
burn on that throat to get that voice.
That's also what I tell people in public.
It works. Anyway. So, what is your story? Why do you need a vacation? If you live in Capital City, don't they have all the amenities there?
Sometimes you just like a change of scenery.
Yes, but showers. Don't they have showers in Capital City?
Do they not have showers?
He just kind of looks around. I have the beach.
Oh, good.
They have really nice baths. You know, even
Okay. Yeah, no, you know what? Sometimes you just like want to get out there and do something different. Hey, Michi, you know, you have a lot going on. Why don't you talk about yourself instead of me?
I'm glad you asked. For a long time, several years, I would travel around with my father, and we've actually been to Omashu before. So I'm excited to go back and see how things are different and how things are the same. Yeah, I lived in the colonies for a while, and then we moved to the Fire Nation to give.
World traveler, you probably have many stories.
Yeah. It's late though. And I did spend like the last 5 or more years just going to school.
Nothing wrong with an education.
Yeah.
Good night. He stands up and kind of brushes himself off and walks into this little room and pulls a banana curtain, like a giant banana leaf curtain. The fish stew starts to kind of bubble over.
I'm gonna pull it off the fire.
Yeah. Starts to kind of settle down.
Sir, did you want your dinner?
Well, he's
Okay, now see, this is what a serial killer would act like.
he went to sleep. He didn't try to kill us.
Is he actually asleep or is he faking it?
The banana leaf is now blowing every time he breathes out.
Why couldn't he have used that banana leaf for clothing?
Oh no, I don't know. It was very close to exposure down there. What?
I try a bite of the stew.
It actually isn't bad. You're almost kind of familiar with the similarities in the taste of this stew because a lot of the stuff that you've eaten growing up is sea prune stew, fish stew, you know, and it has a very similar but almost kind of exotic taste to it, being that you're in a different part of the world, there are different fish, different ingredients and stuff, but it definitely kind of hits that nostalgia button for you. Definitely kind of, this feels like a Water Nation recipe.
He's very excited and he's just going to help himself.
Oh boy.
A good idea.
Why not?
Well, it's his food.
There's a lot here, and a little will fill you up.
Invite us in. Michi's gonna start poking around. Like he has all these banana leaves. Michi's gonna look for something that he can eat. Maybe.
There's all kinds of like nuts and berries and like prepared meat, like salted meats and stuff that have been dried out. So, and that's not going to help you, but it does look like this person has been living here for a while and is not just surviving, but is thriving in this environment. While it looks very rustic and earthy on the initial glance, as you're kind of perusing through the stuff, it does look like this person is enjoying this type of lifestyle and is well maintained here.
I love that for him. We can repay him in clams. That'll be like our currency. I'm sure it's fine. He gets a nice, like, sized bowl of these berries and nuts and whatever else he finds.
Rue is going to pour Zola a bowl of stew and make sure that there was a fish head in there.
And then it pops up and the one eye is just like there.
I will fish the fish head out and throw it back into the pot.
This time it goes up mouth first.
That's the best part.
No. I will eat the stew before I'll leave like a little bit of money on the table.
Fire Nation coin.
Yeah, that's all I have, so.
Okay.
After eating, Rue is going to go back and check on Tapu.
As you turn around to leave out the front door that you came in, above the door frame, which is this bambooed structure with the door kind of tethered together, above this little door frame, there is a red, like sloppily painted symbol on the door. And it is the symbol of a lotus. Like, it wasn't painted on delicately. It was like somebody went out and grabbed one of the berries and like squeezed the berries on there to paint onto this thatched wall of red lotus.
So the thing that they were looking for that was stolen from the warden was a lotus tile. Not the tile I have, but a lotus.
Oh, I mean, wake him up and ask him to play Pai Sho. If he even has a set. He kind of like looks around at all the banana leaves.
Maybe we come back and talk to him in the morning. I mean, I don't really want to stay here because he invited us in to tell him stories. We ate his food and I don't feel comfortable sleeping here.
You're muted, Michi.
It is nice.
I mean, it's not bad outside though.
Yeah, there's more places that we can be under where people can't see us. So
Maybe we could stay close by here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get Tapu and our stuff.
I
Okay.
will go help you.
Yeah, it's just a 15-minute walk down the beach. Tapu's just kind of like snoring away. Tapu up. Drag him back.
Do that thing where you lift his head and it just drops, and lift his head and it just drops. Come on, buddy.
Sticking out.
Is he dead?
No, he's just sleeping.
Oh, okay. Good.
He gets up and meanders up the beach with you to a place where you're kind of within earshot of that house. You find a nice place to kind of sprawl out and set up camp, and you go to sleep for the night. And the morning comes, and the fire has kind of died down that's coming out of the chimney of the house. It's just this like trickle of white almost looks more like steam than smoke at this point. And the door is kind of like not open, but it is askew.
Can I go knock?
Yeah, as you knock on the door, it kind of rattles instead of knocking, because kind of like that loose thing, and there's no answer, and you don't hear the snoring that you heard last night. Hey, welcome, Raiders.
Can I stick my head in?
Stick your head in, and the pot of stew has kind of been emptied, which, when you guys left, it wasn't completely gone. But there's no sign of the man. But in the center of the room, on this little, like, wicker, almost kind of designed coffee table, this very small, round, circular coffee table, is a Pai Sho set up, ready to play. And it looks like there have been a couple moves made. So it's like in the middle of a game. And a lot of the Pai Sho tiles look like they've been carved out of wood found out here, so they're not very fancy. Except for one. There is one single tile in the center of the board that kind of, from the distance that you're at as you're kind of looking in, matches the coloring and the design of the Pai Sho tile that you have.
I will go in and pick up the tile.
Just oops a second.
Yeah, Rue's right behind her.
Figure out that. Give me just a second. Somewhere. Oh, okay. Okay. As you go into the center of the room and you lean in, you see that the symbol on the Pai Sho tile is that of a ship's wheel.
Can I examine it? Does it open up like mine did?
Pick it up, and it is exactly like yours. It has that crease in the center.
Yeah. I will try and open it.
Twist it, pop it off, and there is a folded up piece of parchment in the center of it, just like yours.
Can I open the parchment?
Unravel it, and it is a airbending technique.
What is that?
Here, let me see. I'm gonna take it from Zola and like lift it up and like
Snatchy?
look and turn it upside down.
Lord.
Well, I mean, this doesn't look like
I
anything.
thought you were still asleep. It came out of nowhere.
You guys were gone, and I kind of, I missed you. It's really dark.
You are very quiet, Michi.
Very quiet.
Should I be less quiet? I mean,
No.
What? So what is this?
I don't know. Maybe we should hold on to it though. Here, I'll hold on to this one, and you can hang on to that one, and then maybe we'll find one for Rue. This looks important.
Stealing Pai Sho tiles now?
We're trying to
Borrowing.
collect the whole set?
Look, my game's a little off on Pai Sho, but I mean,
I'm very good at it, so. I feel bad. It feels like we're stealing a lot from this man.
Is there like a wooden carved tile that would match the wheel? Like this is like an extra tile? Or is this
you
like
see
part of the set?
that there is a wooden carved tile that seems like it belongs to the set, and this is an extra. And it was set in the center of the board, which in the moves that have been made, it shouldn't be there. It's not a part of the game that's being played.
Does it, if I turn it over, does it have anything like carved into the back?
It does.
Ooh.
It has all the things.
As you flip it over, you find on the circle there's like a half circle carved around it, and then 3 squiggly lines. And Rue, you immediately recognize it. You know exactly what that's trying to represent because you've lived here, and you know that that is the national emblem of the Northern Water Tribe. It is the moon and the waves.
He makes
It really
the
made,
same.
like, a weird noise.
Yeah, he makes the same groan I did. Just, that's
Yeah.
my home.
Oh, so we do need to go to the north.
No, that doesn't mean we need to go there.
I feel like these are like breadcrumbs for us. We got
Yeah,
this one
if we're
from
gonna go to
Nana
Amashu and then
to Amashu, and then we go to the north. Maybe we find another one in Omashu that'll point us to like the next place.
Well, we'll cross that icy bridge when we get to it. For
We'll
now,
burn that icy bridge when we get to it.
I'm gonna go outside
Why?
and I'm gonna see if the guy is around to ask him before we take his fancy tile.
Okay, well, okay, fine. We'll put it back. We'll put it back. Did we still have it like in 2?
I'll screw it back together.
Okay. Nietzsche like looks at it and kind of like fiddles with it. He's gonna try and get it open and like take the scroll out.
Yeah,
then,
it's easy to. It's just kind of a screw. It doesn't. There's no threading, so it's not screw. But it's easier to twist and pull than it is to kind of just pull it because of the suction of the 2 pieces together. You just kind of twist and pull it, and it pops open.
Okay. Yeah, he's gonna subtly take the little piece of paper.
Are you trying to do this without the other 2 seeing? Yeah. Okay, I would like you to roll a push your luck, which is a passion roll.
Okay.
Is there anything I can roll to see him do this?
No, there's nothing at all. There's nothing at all. 9.
Fuck.
They don't see anything except for like you putting it back together at the end of all. Like you pop it together and then you place it back on the thing. So you all see like a little twisting motion and then putting it back on the table.
Okay. Just like it was.
I follow Rue out.
Rue is gonna be looking for the guy kind of like along the beach. And
when you hit down under the beach, you immediately see right about where the waves are kind of like coming up to you. See footprints heading north along the beach. And it's very obvious that in the next half an hour, that tide coming in is going to wash those footprints away real fast.
So this is going to sound really odd.
Okay.
But I think he was from the Water Nation. The Water Tribes.
Because of the pie show tile?
Mainly because of the stew.
Oh, okay.
So it's just I mean, he lives on the ocean, and he had a random tile. Like, is that really enough to say that, oh, hey, he's from the Water Tribe? Like,
apparently also he had stew, which is an only thing that you can get in the Water Tribe.
oh, my mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little attacked here.
Only
Maybe
the
you
Water
wanted to go
Tribe
take
can
a
eat
nap.
fish. You know, even if you live by the ocean.
We're just gonna turn around and start following the footprints.
Rue, we're just kidding.
I'm gonna follow him.
Yeah.
They go on for about a half a mile, and then they kind of turn up the beach, and you can kind of clearly see that there is this clear like path. It's not like a defined road, but a path that kind of cuts through the vegetation and seems to kind of connect and lead to a road, and you can clearly see this road kind of going, through the valleys and up into the dips to Omashu. And Omashu's probably about an hour and a half walk from where you're at.
Okay, maybe we will run into him on the way to Amashu. I want to ask him about everything.
Your dad?
No, why would I want to ask him about my dad? I'm not the one with daddy issues.
I mean, it sounds like you are the one with daddy issues.
I'm gonna go get my fox silk, and we're gonna leave and go to Omashu. And I'm gonna see if there's any of that stew left.
As you go back to the building, there is no stew left. He has
Pathetic.
eaten the last of the stew before heading out. But you do pick up your fox elk, and you hit that trail, and you head up towards Omashu. And you arrive at Omashu. And this city is grand. For those who have not been here before, it's quite impressive, because there's a valley that leads down, and then kind of you go up this trail. It's at the base of the mountain that you can see the majesty that is Omashu in its full grandeur. It kind of sits atop this mountain that sits in this valley, and on top of the mountain, it's almost like Omashu has been carved directly out of the peak, leaving its walls and its very angular kind of design to the city. And it's grand. It's not as impressive, Zola, as the regality and the grandeur of the Fire Nation's capitals. But for an Earth Kingdom city, this is quite impressive. The earthbending required to kind of carve this out, it is a bit impressive. And you walk up to these massive doors that kind of lead into the city. It's almost kind of like I said, dug into this mountain, and kind of you feel like you're a part of the mountain at this point on this city. And you're immediately overwhelmed by the busyness of it all. As soon as you cross those gates, like on the outside, very quiet, nature-like, you can hear the birds, the forest is very much alive. As soon as you cross that threshold into the city, you're overwhelmed by the sound of stone on stone, the sound of this rushing, whooshing system of the postal service that you see, the carts that are kind of, and it's very loud. There's a lot of people kind of going back and forth. You see a lot of refugees in here that are not necessarily Earth Kingdom. There's a lot of people that have just come to Omashu, and it's become this mixing pot of people. And they all seem to be quite happy and content with what's going on here and going about their daily business. But amidst all that noise and hustle and bustle, you can hear the sound of like stomping and earth bending just protruding and echoing off the rock walls, probably about 130 feet away from you to the west.
Gonna head that direction, I guess.
It's so loud here.
You head through the crowd and through the town, and it's not overly crowded. It's not shoulder to shoulder people, but there is a lot of people in here, and they're doing, they're living their lives. It's very city. It's compared to where you've just been. It's almost a little bit overwhelming, the amount of people in here that are just living their lives day to day, shopping, talking to their kids. It's a very busy city. And as you're approaching, there's a single individual wearing like a brown apron, and he's got this green, it would be a long sleeve shirt, but he's kind of rolled the sleeves up all the way, and he's got this like reddish greenish, it's kind of like a red and green pattern like the handkerchief pattern. You know how they got those little swirls, like turban on his head, and he picks up the end of this cart and he kind of rolls it through right in front of where you're at, and it is filled with radishes.
I think Rue would try and stop Tapu, but was kind of like looking around and not looking forward.
And as Tapu crashes into that cart, knocking it over, spilling the radishes everywhere, the merchant yells out, "My radishes!" And you continue on down the... because that's all we ever see of the radish guy.
I kind of speed Tapu up.
Oh my god, you guys!
Just
Yep, and
keep moving.
Tapu keeps going, and you just see this angry merchant waving his fist angrily in the air at you as you go through the city.
Sorry.
And you come across where the source of this sound is coming from. There is a very nice stone building, and there is a stone sign out front, and it says "Rock and Roll Soul Food." But the sound sounds like it's coming from in the back. There's not a lot of people coming and going in this particular restaurant at this particular time of the day. You've got here, it's fairly early in the morning, and it sounds like there is some massive earthbending going on behind this area. And as you approach that, you can hear also the sounds of chickens, like clucking and kind of like oinking. It almost sounds like there's some kind of chaos going on back there.
I'm gonna go check this out.
Yeah, I'm gonna start leading Tapu around the back.
As you peek around the corner of this restaurant, you see that there is a tall, slender young woman who's got a long tunic, green tunic. She's definitely an earthbender, because you see her doing moves and kind of pulling up the earth to kind of guide these pickens back into a coop. And that is where we're going to end this particular episode of the Saga of the White Lotus.
God. Fucking Pickens.
All I can think of now is my radishes.
Poor guy.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. If you like what we're doing and you'd like to support the Nerd Asylum, please consider becoming a patron. We love making shows like this, and they couldn't happen without the love of our community. If you would like to get caught up on any of our shows, please go over to the Nerd Asylum. That is thenerdasylum.com. You could follow us on all social medias at The Nerd Asylum. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Yeah, we will be back in next weekend.
Yes, the 26th. That is next weekend. Yes.
We will be back on the 26th
Yay.
with our third episode.
So excited.
Won't want to miss this.
No.
Every episode is going to be so great. This is such a great group. I enjoy playing with you guys. Thank you so much for being great players. Thank you, Magpie, for such a great game. I love this system. I can't wait for that core rulebook to come out. The PDF version is coming out soon. The hard copy is on its way, and I'm just super excited. I love it. So thank you for producing that. I'm so glad the Kickstarter. Yes. Just love this world. Love these players.
The
As
next
always.
episode's gonna rock.
No slim pickings around here.
Good night, everyone.
And thank you, Joe, for telling us a story.
Yes, Joe.
So good.
Thank you guys for telling the story. It's a joint effort, and that's what I love about this system. Is it's not like it's a core group effort to come up with the story. So I love it. As always, stay nerdy, friends, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.